the Liberals had the party and I get the hangover. And it's like, yeah, well, he'll get the hangover all right, get blamed for it all. And it is this shallowness, this shallow, self-serving narcissism that characterizes so much of the elite class. It's so demoralizing. It's almost unspeakable. We all pray, hope and pray.
When was the last time you felt truly proud of your country? For many Brits, that feeling has become increasingly rare. And according to Jordan Peterson, there's a good reason for that. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great. Thank you so much. Now back to the video. In a recent interview, Peterson spoke directly to the heart of British identity, challenging the nation to reconnect with its rich history and values. But his words have sparked a fierce debate. Do you see yourself in Peterson's description of a nation losing its way, or is his assessment off the mark? As Jordan Peterson steps onto the hallowed grounds of Oxford and Cambridge, he's struck by the weight of centuries of intellectual achievement. These institutions, once bastions of free thought and rigorous debate, now seem to be grappling with a new and troubling reality. Britain, the birthplace of common law and parliamentary democracy, finds itself at a crossroads. Peterson's keen eye doesn't miss the irony. The nation that gave the world the Magna Carta and the scientific method is now struggling to uphold the very principles it once championed. The current political climate in the UK shows a concerning shift away from these foundations, and Peterson isn't afraid to point it out. Take, for example, the growing trend of self-censorship in British institutions and media. It's not just anecdotal evidence. Research paints a worrying picture.
It is this shallowness, this shallow, self-serving narcissism that characterizes so much of the elite class. It's so demoralizing. It's almost unspeakable. We all pray, hope and pray.
A recent study by the University and College Union found that 35.5% of academics admit to self-censoring their views for fear of negative consequences. This isn't just a matter of hurt feelings, it's a fundamental threat to the intellectual lifeblood of the nation. But it's not just in the ivory towers where this erosion is taking place. The British media, once known for its fearless pursuit of truth, now seems to be treading on eggshells. Journalists are increasingly wary of tackling controversial topics, fearing backlash from both social media mobs and their own employers. Peterson's analysis of this situation is characteristically blunt. He argues that political correctness has paralyzed honest discussion, creating a climate where people are more concerned with avoiding offense than engaging in meaningful dialogue.
Well, has put Canada in the doldrums that it's in, and is also responsible for the state of your country, which is dreadful, sadistically, and say nothing about it and gaslight people who are telling the truth. It's so sickening.
It's a far cry from the robust debates that once echoed through the halls of Parliament and the pages of British newspapers. The clash between traditional British values and modern sensibilities is becoming more pronounced. Take the recent controversy surrounding a Cambridge college's decision to remove a memorial to a benefactor with links to the slave trade. While some saw it as a necessary step towards inclusivity, others viewed it as an attempt to erase history rather than learn from it. Or consider the ongoing debates about free speech on university campuses. The very institutions that should be fostering open dialogue are now grappling with calls for safe spaces and trigger warnings. It's a far cry from the intellectual crucible that produced thinkers like John Locke and John Stuart Mill.
The Liberals had the party and I get the hangover. And it's like, yeah, well, he'll get the hangover all right, get blamed for it all, and grow some spine again and put your damn country back together and stand up to these bloody psychopathic bullies.
Peterson argues that this shift isn't just a matter of changing times. It's a fundamental threat to the values that made Britain a global leader in the first place. The consequences, he warns, are not merely theoretical. As self-censorship becomes the norm and honest debate becomes increasingly rare, the nation risks losing its ability to grapple with complex issues and find innovative solutions. As the fog of political correctness thickens over Britain's streets, a disturbing reality lurks in the shadows. While the elite bask in their ivory towers, working-class communities are grappling with unprecedented challenges that threaten the very fabric of their existence. But here's the kicker. Those in power are too paralyzed by fear to even acknowledge the problem, let alone address it.
The most likely outcome is this is all going to be dumped on Pierre Poilievre, and he's going to have to take the hit for it. What did he say? I interviewed him last week. And the woke green mob, because it would be a dreadful shame to lose you.
Jordan Peterson, never one to mince words, is sounding the alarm on this dangerous trend. He's not just talking about abstract concepts or academic theories. No, he's pointing to real-world consequences that are tearing apart the lives of ordinary Britons. And it's not just about hurt feelings or Twitter spats. We're talking about the safety and well-being of some of the most vulnerable members of society. Consider this. In certain parts of the UK, law enforcement has become hesitant to investigate specific crimes due to cultural sensitivities. It's a phenomenon that's leaving working-class women and other vulnerable populations exposed to danger. The very institutions meant to protect them are now paralyzed by the fear of offending particular groups. It's a twisted reality where political correctness trumps public safety.
How sad it is for us in Canada and in the United States to watch what you're doing to yourself. Weak political correctness that's gone so far that you can allow your working class women to be raped en masse.
But don't just take Peterson's word for it. The evidence of systematic failures in protecting vulnerable citizens is mounting. Social services, once a lifeline for those in need, are now caught in a web of bureaucratic red tape and cultural apprehension. The result? A system that's more concerned with avoiding offense than actually helping those who desperately need it. This isn't just a localized issue affecting a few neighborhoods. It's a symptom of a broader cultural shift that's eroding the foundations of British society. The same mentality that's stifling debate in universities and newsrooms is now infiltrating the very institutions responsible for public safety. It's a domino effect that's leaving a trail of victims in its wake.
And the woke green mob, because it would be a dreadful shame to lose you. Grow some spine again and put your damn country back together and stand up to these bloody psychopathic bullies.
Peterson's criticism of the elite's refusal to acknowledge these issues is scathing. He argues that this denial is a product of weak leadership and a culture that prioritizes political correctness over the protection of citizens. It's a damning indictment of a system that seems to have lost its moral compass. The impact on law enforcement effectiveness is particularly troubling. Peterson's remarks suggest that the fear of offending particular groups can lead to inaction from the police, ultimately endangering the very communities they're sworn to protect. It's a perverse inversion of justice, where the innocent suffer while the guilty are shielded by a misguided sense of cultural sensitivity.
Such an immense debt, and to watch you guys like spiral yourselves into the ground for this idiot, how much the world owes the UK in terms of, say, the establishment of common law and decent government everywhere.
As the situation deteriorates, Peterson's call for change becomes more urgent. He's not just suggesting a few policy tweaks or a reshuffling of bureaucrats. No, he's calling for a fundamental shift in mindset, a reclaiming of society's moral backbone. The alternative, he warns, is nothing short of catastrophic. A UK that loses its foundational values and the ability to ensure the safety of its citizens. As Britain stands at a crossroads, the urgency of Peterson's message becomes increasingly clear. The nation faces a stark choice between comfortable lies and uncomfortable truths, with the cost of inaction growing higher by the day. Recent statistics paint a grim picture, indicating a deterioration in social cohesion and rising concerns about crime and safety, particularly among vulnerable groups. Without significant changes, experts warn that the UK may face increased social unrest and a further decline in national identity. However, it's not all doom and gloom. Britain's history serves as a powerful reminder of its potential for resilience and renewal. During World War II, the nation united against external threats, demonstrating an extraordinary capacity for strength in times of crisis. This historical context offers a glimmer of hope, suggesting that the UK has the potential to overcome its current challenges. The question remains, will Britain heed Peterson's wake-up call and rediscover its backbone? The answer to this question may well determine the nation's future. The time for action is now, before the cracks in society's foundation become irreparable fissures.